Okay, so here's I'm just gonna go through a series of pictures I have on my phone. Hopefully this will record, not run out of space here. So we'll see. Me trying to, I'll talk at days. I will not stop talking about horses. It's annoying. I don't have human relationships because of how much I want to talk about horses. So it's very hard for me to keep this stuff not weird and short and concise for the goldfish blue light attention span that horses don't give a shit about and do not respect, and you're always going to have trouble with horses if that's your mindset. So this legitimately is a picture of me waiting for people to understand the importance of groundwork, barn management, and flat work. People just don't understand the fact that that horse's life is more important. If you want communication to be done well, horses have to be happy and content and pain-free. They have to also understand the language you're speaking, so you have to be able to speak it consistently to the point where it becomes fluid. Because Equinese is what it is, but it also has individual dialects and translations. And some horses legitimately need translation. Like, I've met horses from the Middle East that didn't know English. And they had to basically learn what I was saying only because they could pay attention to the fact that I wasn't a threat. They didn't understand the words. They legitimately didn't speak English. And those aren't the only horses I met that didn't speak English. I've met horses that spoke Brazilian Portuguese. I've met horses that have, know only Spanish. Like, that's why Equinese exists, right? So we have to understand what we're communicating with, and those are horses. So I'm just going to slide through the pictures. It's probably going to be a real mishmash, but it's all going to be basically about feel, understanding, just horses, like, and we are training our eye so that we're able to do a better job of flat work, do a better job of ground work and barn management. We have to develop an eye for certain things. And I'm doing a very extreme version of it so that people can see, like, this is, it's really obvious. And, but it is advanced. A lot of this stuff is advanced. I simply have problem going A, B, C, D anymore. I want to talk about umlauts. I want to talk about accents and the way that sentences flow and things like that. Like, I don't want to just know the alphabet. It's going to be hard for me to do this. This is all I've talked about my whole life. So it's really hard to get to go back to that. But I love answering questions. I want to be able to do lives so that I can answer those questions for people. Then that's great. I can totally ABC it if I know exactly what it is you want to know, Your rearing, biting, cribbing, bucking, insert, whatever you think is a problem here, horse, is not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. This is I got this off Facebook somewhere. I don't remember who made it or whatever, but this is common knowledge and for horsemanship, absolutely, like true horsemanship, like lightness and classical work and vaquero work and California work and all that kind of stuff. It's all about horses' well-being. So we're gonna just keep going here. All right. So we've got some of the musculature. This is going to have the rhomboids, which we have as well. Rhomboids are between our shoulders. Like, lots of times, especially if you're picking stalls a lot, you'll feel that little tightness between your shoulders. That's your rhomboids, is kind of in that same thing by your scapulas. Horses, that's each one of those teal spots is a separate set of rhomboids. So, like, there's the cervical ones up the neck, and then there's the ones that are actually behind the shoulder blades. Now, those are also underneath the trapezius muscles, but we're not going to get there. But I mean, we understand pain because we know how our bodies work. I know the limitation of my arm. I know how far back my elbow goes. I'm fully aware of how far back my thumb or my hand or whatever goes. I have to be like, right now, I'm not as flexible as I should be, because when you ride, you have to be able to use both hands and fingers at the same rate. Like you're playing two recorders. So like you've got to be able to know that your fingers can do that same thing. So that fluidity and that motion needs to be similar, and your feel needs to be the same on both hands. I've got a lot of exercises for that, but we're not going to get into that until we get into feeling connectivity. Now, knowing that set of muscles, that thoracic rhomboid, the one between their actual shoulder blades, is where your tack sits. That's where your tack sits. That's where your tree sits of your saddle. If you have a treed saddle, that's where the tree of your saddle is, basically just behind that. So where your saddle pad pressure is and everything is huge, especially for saddle pads. Now, that's just that part. Let's just keep going. Nuno. This is Nuno. Nuno. Just look up Nuno. Nuno Olivier. Oh, geez. Oliviera. Oh, my God. My brain's numb right now because I've just been thinking horses. This is Nuno. I just know him as Nuno. Portuguese classical dressage rider, amazing. Look at the equitation. Look at the way this dude sits. He's riding a double bridle only on the snaffle. That horse is soft, beautiful, and just ahead of the vertical, carrying their neck, their ballast. He's sitting so perfectly balanced. That horse can move like he's not there. And that horse has, they're called diagonal pairs. The way that the way the legs are moving they look like diagonal pairs. Like you could cut that horse in half and just lay their legs over top of one another. Their steps are even between both back feet and both front feet. So that's not something we're used to seeing anymore. Everybody's got this big flashy shit movement at the front and these little tiny steps at the back, and they think it's impressive. It's not. And there's a reason we can see this if we have an eye that is trained for lightness and is trained for seeing the movement a horse can actually give. Nuno, brilliant example. Philippe Carl is an OG legend. Okay, French classical from the French School of Saumur. This is his, I believe, High Noon's a Hanoverian. Oh, geez, I'm going to go crazy if I mix that up. High Noon, I have a picture of them on my fridge. There's a picture of them on my fridge. Beautiful work. Same idea. Horse's neck. He's right here. He's preparing him during a demonstration for going under saddle to just start jumping. He's got people with big banners of flags. This is a demo. And he's got these people with these huge big flags, and they put the flags down and he jumps the flags. So they've got these big long banners that they drop down. There's one on each side, and they basically make a mobile course, and he jumps it with this horse. And this is him preparing for that, getting ready for that part of the demonstration. This is beautiful riding. I mean, this is Philippe Carl. This is the school of légèreté, of lightness. I have a friend who's doing this process, and it's amazing. Like, it takes years. Like, the amount of feel and time that is, like, I wish I had that time. I don't have the amount of time it takes to do what this man does. I want it eventually at some point, and I am working on it on projects. I'm going to work on my friend Beast this year, to where my goal is going to be, as much as Beast's ability can do this. Beast is a very athletic dude, but I mean, High Noon is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful horse, beautifully well-bred horse. And I want him to do this same thing. So this is my goals are horses similar to Nuno's and Philippe Carl's. Then there's my demigod, Buck Bronneman. I don't care what people have to say about Buck. I have met Buck Bronneman in High River, Alberta, and I shook his hand and I asked him a question, and he looked me straight in the face and he talked straight to me, and I swear everything in within 20 meters of Buck Bronneman relaxes. I don't care what anybody has to say about his delivery or his technique or whatever people seem to. I have met Buck Bronneman, and the dude makes you nervous. He's so calming, if that makes sense. Like, I'm like, oh my God, and like fangirling hard. And I don't know if you can tell by the tone of my voice, not much of a fangirl, but if I met Philippe Carl and I did meet Buck Bronneman only one time, and I'll tell you, life-changing for me. Granted, as horsemen go along, they get soured because they have to deal with idiots all the time, and people that don't understand that these things make sense. So understanding that keeping the ears level during lateral flexion, which is side-to-side flexion, which is everything to do with the axis and the atlas of a horse's skeleton and their musculature and how limited they are. It's the same for me. How far back can my elbow bend? Does it need to hyperflex past that? No. Is 1 degree hyperflexion past my elbow hurt? Fucking yes. It doesn't need to be 20 degrees before it hurts. It needs to be half a degree, 1 degree too much hurts. And we need to be aware of that kind of thing. Lateral flexion's not evil. It just needs to be done correctly. So keeping the ears level, he has the whole thing of a stone tied off of the forehand, off the forelock, so it just hangs straight down between the eyes, like down those kinds of, like a plumb line. That's what it is. Horses' heads aren't tilted back and forth, so that we can see that it's possible. The horses can look. They can look to the side. They're able to, because their neck is their ballast. It's what stabilizes their weight. They have to be able to extend it. They have to be able to pull it back, forward, whatever it is they need. If a horse is scrambling, if you see a horse ever kind of walk down through water and kind of like slip or fall or anything, and I'm talking about like natural horses. Like if you've ever watched wild horses, feral horses, they're not wild, they're feral. Wild horses, North America has feral horses. They're not wild horses. They're not like been there for tens of millions of years in the same spot. No, these are feral domesticated horses. They have to, when they're going down through stuff and slipping and falling, they have to extend their necks out sometimes to gain their balance and pull their necks back. But now everybody's got this idea that they sit in this cookie cutter 2-dimensional shape with their head cranked into some stupid, ridiculous position, and then expected to do all of these very athletic things without their ballast, because people don't want to give them their head. They don't want to give them their face because they're so scared. They got to yank and pull everything around like they're driving a bobcat. And they're not. Their horses can walk on their own. They do it all the time without us. Just leave them alone. Let them use their necks. But most people are too chicken shit to ride with no hands. Most people are too chicken shit to ride on a loose rein. They don't have the ability to feel and have the connectivity, which I'll talk about in another thing. So we're going to talk about anatomy here, and we're going to talk about the people that take advantage of that anatomy here. Number 1, this is breed specific, and it happens in pretty much every breed. This is hyperflexion. This is what people think softness looks like. Remember, these men exist. That, with a big old shank in there, is considered, this is obviously Arabian, but it's everywhere. We're going to take a look. Let's see. Whatever picture comes up next, I'll talk about. There we go. Doesn't matter what saddle you have. It doesn't matter. It's not specific to any breed. any saddle, insert breed, insert cool radness, insert point system here, insert bank account, insert shit that doesn't make any difference to horses, because this is a huge arena. Look at the seating right there. This is somebody warming up during for something. This should not exist. This should be banned. That should be banned. That is ridiculous. Ridiculous. But it exists everywhere and in every discipline. This guy, these are 2-year-old horses, by the way. These horses are 24 months old. This guy, everybody thinks is awesome. Look at this barn. Look at all the stuff. Multi-millionaire, this guy. Multi-millionaire. Everybody swears by this guy. This is 2-year-old horse that he's sitting on. Now let's take a look at this. Two-year-old horse. No horse in the world is not mature before the age of 5 to 6, sometimes 7. Between 5 and 7, I would say 6 is the average that horses are completely mature at 6. This is ridiculous. And this guy, everybody loves him. He's got DVDs and merch and shit everywhere. Multi-millionaire. Complete tool bag. This is an Olympian. Multiple medals. This horse is probably 6 figures easy. Easy 6 figures. What is happening? How is this considered okay? When we know this exists. Horrific. Every single, these aren't Big Lick Tennessee Walkers. Big Lick Tennessee Walker riders, they should all be sterilized and buried under a prison. They're psychopaths. There's something wrong with them. They are sociopaths. There's something actually wrong with Big Lick Tennessee Walker people. They should all be jailed. Period. And that's just that extremity. And then there's all of the gated horse shit that happens. It doesn't matter. This can't tell me this horse can move properly. You cannot tell me this horse moves properly. This horse is sound. This horse is in legit pain right now. This is ridiculous, and it should be outlawed and banned. Period. Heavily fined. Heavily fined. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines. Okay, that's what I mean. Same jackass, different horse. 2-year-old horse. This is him backing up this horse. And this guy's awesome. Everybody oh yeah, he's just the best. No, he's not. He's an absolute dickhole. Screw him. Oh, there he is again. And isn't it interesting? And we're talking about lateral flexion and the dropping of an ear. This horse has a white ear on this side, clearly visible as way lower than the colored ear. This guy is a criminal. Screw him. It doesn't matter how much money he has. This is ridiculous that this is tolerated. What is he doing with his hand? Bringing it right over to his ass? Yeah, you're going to use that motion when you're riding. Sure, yeah, that's how you ride. You fucking just put your hand into your ass. That's how you ride. No, it isn't. This is ridiculous, and it's disgusting. Jumper. This is a jumper rider. Tell me that horse can use that neck to extend and lift up their shoulders, especially that small rhomboid muscle that we talked about earlier, to be able to jump 6 feet. If they're doing it, there's some jackass up there that doesn't even understand the fact their bridle barely fits, and they have to tape their horse's mouth shut around their horrible hands, which are clearly trying to be avoided. This horse is lifting this jackass with only the muscles of their jaw, of their lower jaw. This is absolutely ridiculous. Should be banned, outlawed, and there should be nothing but awareness for this. It's called hyperflexion or rollkur. This is not a natural motion for a horse, period. That's like you taking your wrist, putting out your arm, and bending your elbow backwards at least 2 degrees. That's what this horse feels in their neck and head right now. Legit. And nobody can argue that. Hyperflexion is hyperflexion of whichever joint. Ligaments join bone to bone. That's just how ligaments work. That's what ligaments are. This is an absolute assault of ligaments. Hyperflexion of your ligaments that hold your bone to your bone, which like would be your elbow or your wrist, taking your wrist and bending it too far, even if 1 degree hurts. That is more than 1 degree. This is absolute asshattery. That's it. Then there's this criminal who should be buried under a prison. 10-time world champion dressage rider and is now a reiner. Multi-millionaire. This person is considered the best of the best. This. We have to start training our eyes. We have to start seeing this shit. This cannot be legal. Period. End of sentence. These people should be banned and fined and never allowed ever to compete in riding ever again. They don't need the money, so screw them. Bye. End it. End it. Bring horsemanship back. Bring back what created our societies and what molded us. This new war being in where horses are disposable as war in the show pen is ridiculous and should be banned. Period. Now, why is that? Okay. Why is that? Let's take a little look here. The pole, or that point that shows there, is basically where your halter sits, right? Where that line from pole to this atlas or the C1 is where your halter sits. That's also where the nuchal ligament joins, goes all the way down, and has variations off of it, which I'll show you, and joins to the wither of your horse. This has absolutely everything to do with the ballast of your horse's movement, how their neck works, how their balance is, how everything. These 3 little spots here, the skull, the atlas, and the axis. The atlas is the yes. It's when you nod your head up and down. So bringing their chin in or out. There's a limit to that. There's only so far you can put your chin to your chest too. And you can't expect to do it with somebody reefing your jaw out and falling from left to right as you're asking you to do shit too. It's not going to happen with any real quality. So all these multi-million-dollar horses that you see, especially here on these channels, you got these kids that think they're doing this really rad job, but what they're doing is rehabbing horses as they're injuring them and then saying, we're taking the best care of them. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because if you took the best care of them, they wouldn't get injured. So you're not. Just because you have swimming pools full of Perrier doesn't mean that you're doing a good job. It means you're trying to fix your garbage and you're not doing a good job. Sorry. Because there's a 10-time world champion that I'll tell her to shove it up her ass if I meet her in person. Just saying. Because my job as a horse trainer is to be here for these horses. So the axis is the one that is our no, but it's not the same. The horse's head doesn't say no the same way a human's head says no. It's pretty long, It's pretty long skull there, and their necks are designed for their heads to be on the ground, so it's more of a swing that the axis does. But there's lots and lots and lots of videos and lots of resources that people can get a translation that they understand that they that, when it comes to bodies, the endless resources. Just look them up. They're everywhere, and I totally encourage people to learn this. The way the neck works otherwise and everything's the same. We have necks, they have necks. Every mammal has 7 vertebrae. A mouse, a whale, a seal, a horse, a giraffe, all have 7 vertebrae. So relatively, a horse's neck is the same length to them as ours is to us. So we can understand necks, because they're not like, well, I don't have a long neck like a horse. No, a horse doesn't have a long neck either. They have 7 vertebrae just like you. So shut up. Okay? Now, what's next here? Oh, do I have another video? Oh, I don't have any more? I'm pretty sure I had I'm pretty sure I've got nuchal ligament. There it is. Nuchal ligament joins from the pole to the wither. There's all of the lamina joining each individual because it joins bone to bone. Then there's the ligament all the way down the back. Ligaments hold bone to bone. Tendons join muscle to bone. So if we understand that this is the way a horse's skull works, their neck is relative to our neck. They need their neck for ballast, and the most motion a horse has is through the neck and through the tail, which is the tail's like their rudder, and it has to be able to move. But the actual spine itself is like ours. It only has a very small amount of movement. Horses don't bend through their spines. They lift up their bodies and they relax through their shoulders and their necks. Their bend doesn't come from the center. It doesn't come from the middle of their back. That's what everybody seems to think. It doesn't. It comes from the way a horse carries themselves and the softness of which they carry themselves, as we saw at the beginning of this video. Like I said, lots of resources on this stuff, so I suggest people look it up. If we can leave a horse's head alone, because let's take a look here. I'm not going to go into the TMJ here. But that jaw is not attached with a whole lot. And the bars of a horse's mouth are like, the bone is like 2 knives. You could legit, if you had the jawbone of a horse, you could probably crack somebody's skull open with that. Like, it's legit just like 2 hatchets, like the way that it's shaped. So when people are leaning off their hands, they are strapping their horse's mouth shut, leaning a piece of metal over their tongue, over their palate, over their gums, and over 2 bone hatchets and their jaw attachment. Real horsemen ride the whole horse. They actually ride them from the hind feet primarily, where that horse is rolled up on their hip, which is their hardest structure they've got, just like ours. Shoulders are held on with soft tissues, just like ours. Their hip is their main structure. That's why you don't lift with your back, you lift with your legs. That's what we're asking him to do, lift with his legs, because he's carrying us, right? And we got to be able to allow that motion to flow forward like a big, even roll so that we stay out of their way. Our job is to stay out of their way. It's not for us to go, yay, I'm riding the horsey. I do that anyways because it's fun as fuck because I'm 49, but you have to basically be mentally 9 in order to have a lot of fun with horses. Because horses, they're not ever going to go to medical school. They're horses. They're like human kids. So if you can think like a kid, you're going to have way more luck with horses and have way more fun and understand that you're going to make a shit ton of mistakes and you've got a lot to learn. I'm still learning. Like I said, I'm going to look back at myself at 59 and go, you're an idiot at 49. So just understand this is a constant process. And I always look for other people to talk to as well. That's why I would like to go live once I can go live here. And just answer questions and stuff. So, and talk. because I love it. I mean, the reason I'm working with Beast this year is because he's a challenge, man. He's a challenge. 16 3-hand challenge, and he's fantastic, and I can't wait, because that's, you want to constantly test yourself and keep improving, right? Well, that's what you should do, because that's what horses expect us to do. And if I want to understand equinese into each dialect and translation, I have to be able to understand that each individual horse is going to have a different version that I have to figure out. So this is really interesting stuff to me, and it will get weirder. I'm going to stop now. Okay, bye. Be well.